Like most aged punk rockers, our record collection is busting out of the cabinet we have for it. In addition to having too many records, we also cannot shut the door for the cabinet in which we keep them. Our receiver shit the bed. We got another receiver from the basement from 1982, and it is too big to actually fit in there. So we put it in there sideways, and the frickin' door won't close now. I cannot explain what kind of anxiety this gives me to see my cabinet like that.
It's not from 1982. It's from like 95.
Nicholas claims to only have records from his friends' bands, but he is friends with everybody. All his friends are in like 6 bands.
Yeah, well, at least my records don't get me on some FBI list. Everything in here is something that's like on a blacklist somewhere from the CIA or Homeland Security.
I buy records based on 2 criteria. How offensive the cover art is, and how many blast beats you can fit on a single record.
That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair.
All right, so suffice it to say, we have too many records. The space is not working for us anymore. We need to move them and make something that's a little more conducive to our burgeoning collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get started.
This one's got some nice figure down here. Look at that.
Today we are making a shelf, or as I like to call a cubby, for our LPs with drawers for our 7 inches. Here are the tools. Starting with the power tools, you need to get 2 of these 18-volt screw guns. You want one that you can use for screws and one that you can use as a drill. Both are portable, both share the same battery. You can usually buy them in a pair. This right here is a worm drive 77 7¼ saw. This is the thing I've used more than anything else in all my time doing carpentry. This is a Porter cable brad nailer. This is a chop saw. This one does not have a guard on it. Be sure and use one with a guard. Here is a Bosch skill saw. You need to use this for small openings. This is a Porter cable compressor known as a pancake, and you need that in order to operate the brad nailer. Hand tools. You're gonna need a bunch of clamps. Cheap clamps are okay. There is no shame in using cheap clamps. This is called a speed square. It is absolutely essential. This is called a bit index. You're gonna need this for making holes and stuff. These 2 cats right here are some tape measures. Go ahead and just get the little teeny tiny one. I like this specific brand because they don't break, they last forever, and you don't need much. If they had one that was 10 feet, I would love to have that. And then last but not least, the carpenter pencil that does not roll away. So how you set the blade depth on this for the safest cut and really the most accurate cut is you pull your guard up like this and you hang it over the side, and then you flip your little holder thing up here, and then your guide is adjustable, so you pull it up like this until you set it to where, see how your blade is just barely going past the material, and then there we go. And then what you do is it's kind of hard to do this while you're giving a tutorial. Then you push the lock back down like this, you pull out, the guard goes back down, and then you're ready to cut. And what I've done here is I use this old piece of pegboard dunnage as a straight edge. And you really, without going in too much into it, is you measure 14 inches, which I'm gonna cut, and then you add an extra 1.5 inches plus another little bit. That's always a funny part. So that way, whenever you cut, your guide here is gonna go along the pegboard, and it's gonna cut this perfectly along where that 14-inch mark is. Get this. We are using 2 different types of wood for the basic skeleton of this storage shelving thing. Part of it is veneer, oak veneer on plywood. The other is just some naked ply. This oak veneer plywood is expensive. At best, it's 35 bucks. At worst, so far that I've seen, is $71. And so if you can get away with using any of the naked plywood to do components with it, you'll save yourself some money on it. So in this case, we're building the shelving unit where the shelves are 1.5 inches thick. The reason being is because vinyl is really heavy and you don't want the shelf to sag. You can cleat, you can do some other things to keep it from sagging, but this is going to be a really attractive look. So what we have to do is we take 2 pieces. One is the oak veneer, again the chirped up side on the inside, and then this is naked ply. Put the crappy side with the blemishes on the inside of it, and then you line them up. You clamp it together. And then this is 1.5 inches thick. So you use 1.25 inch screws. It's got to be longer than one side of the ply. See, one piece of plywood, but you don't want to go all the way through, or else it'll do what's called mushrooming. It'll make you'll see bumps on the other side and you can't sand them out. So what you do is, to be extra careful, I don't know if you can see that, but that's a little tiny drill bit, and you drill what are called pilot holes. You can sort of set your depth, but I don't really do it because I'm not really new at this. And then once you make a pilot hole, then the screw knows exactly where it's supposed to be going. And it goes right in there. And you do what's called countersinking it, where you make the head go all the way like under where sea level, whatever the hell you want to call it. Right? And then you don't have to do a whole lot of that, but you do have to put a few on here because you want this to be, it gains its strength from its rigidity. The 2 panels keep each other one straight, if that makes sense. In order to figure out where the shelf is going to be that's going to be level, you use this thing called a speed square to line it up with that line. And then you go from the back. Because whenever you put the thing in the middle on it, you're going to use the speed square to make it straight. See? I'm gonna have to prop that up because it's not quite straight. The front part, because this is the front, this is the front, all of it has to be level. The back, not so much. The front has to be square, because otherwise it's going to be a real pain in the ass when you go to put your face frame on, or if you're just using edge banding, if you do, or trimming it, if you do any of that stuff and it's not even, it's going to be a real pain in the ass. The back can be ugly. Nobody's going to see it. It's going to get covered up with the back. So what you always do is you start on the end and you do this, screw in 1 screw just to get it held together. And then to make sure that they're all the same size, or vertical anyway, nice and even and square, so you can measure it. Like, okay, that's 17 3/8. So it's 17 3/8. In theory, you make a mark. And then you screw in the next one. And then once that's screwed in, then you do the next one. And then you do the last one. Otherwise, especially with the way these are screwed together, it's so hard to get it even once you put the ends together. So always go in a sequence. You know, there's a lot of people that would see this, a lot of carpenters, and be like, that's not how you do it. You gotta do it like this and do it like that. Like, I work a full-time job. I have like 2 hours a night to spend on this kind of thing. I'm a dad. I'm not a wealthy dude. I'm a working class guy. This is how shit gets done. What the fuck happened?
So this is how you cut out a rectangle out of a board? Drill like little holes?
Well, it depends on what tool you're using. Like, I'm using a jigsaw right now.
Okay.
Oh, because it's 1.25 inches. 1.25 inches, and then the blade. Oh. A jigsaw is a really frustrating tool to use also. It's really frustrating. Because it's got a blade that has a tendency to kind of do whatever it wants.
What would be a better tool to use for something like this?
I don't know if there is.
Okay.
I mean, really what you could do is like score your line with a razor blade and then like chisel along that line a little bit, you know, and then you could use a jigsaw, because whenever you like cut a little groove or whatever, Einstein's path of least resistance or whatever will make the blade go in that spot.
Einstein's path of
I
least
don't know.
resistance.
Whoever came up with that. We can bend the face frame to match the rest of it, but I was just gonna say it's probably easiest to start in the middle because that's the most rigid spot, the most turgid spot. I'm sorry.
Okay, so if I'm gonna start in the middle, you have to allow
Yeah.
that to go on a square.
It is. Go for it.
There's a fucking hair's breadth.
Hey, Rebecca's videoing. We should like stage a fight.
Did you get that?
Not funny that time either. Alright, you wise ass son of a bitch. Here, put these on. Make me nervous. Okay. This here is called a brad nailer. It shoots little pieces of wire that work like nails. And it's easier to put those on than screw it down. And then really we just put it there to hold it in place so we can flip it over and screw it in.
You shoot into the wood grain and then it can, when you fill it, it hides it better.
Yeah, smart.
See? You'll be able to thumb through them. So far, this has been the hardest part of the project. This is the base that is going to go under the cubbies. Check this out. Now, the drawers need faces, but you got drawers
Woo!
that'll hold 7 inches in both of them. And I got some over here too. Oh, this one needs a knob. Make a little oil. All right. It doesn't look finished yet because it's not.
It's cool though.
It's going to have a panel on this side, and it's going to have a panel on this side, so these uprights will be the same width as these. And then I've got trim to put on all the uprights and all the pieces in the front. And then we got a stone top to glue up here.
Dang.
I know. It's beautiful, right?
It's gorgeous.
For all the folks at home.
Can't wait to get some stain on this bad boy. We are ready to begin staining the record cubby. We are using Minwax red mahogany stain because it's basically idiot proof. There are a lot of stains that you can build up and mix to kind of change the color. This is just red mahogany. It goes on once. You can kind of do a second coat, but I've noticed that it doesn't really change a whole lot. So it's really easy to use. We've used it in a lot of other spots in the house. So we're gonna go ahead and stain with Minwax. Minwax, because you're a total amateur. This goes on with a brush with the grain, and then we'll wipe it off with paper towels and throw the paper towels away. We prefer Minwax because you can really just slop it on there and flop it off. It doesn't matter how long you leave the Minwax on, it's the same color. After we got the stain on the whole thing, we found some areas that are a little imperfect. There's like kind of this line here and some spots where the glue got on the wood. And so now we are doing a better job. We're going back and sanding out these areas and we're gonna restain them.
There's guaranteed going to be some accidents or some mistakes that happen whenever you work with wood. There's just, or any kind of construction stuff, there's always mistakes. And there's this funny expression that's, I can't see it from my house, right? But whenever you're building stuff and you have to like, and you notice these mistakes, you have to ask yourself, is this something that I can live with? Is this going to bother me? If the answer is yes, then actually stop, do it right.
Fix it!
Yeah.
Minwax, because your ass got glue on the wood. In the next video, we're going to build the record player and speaker console. Ow!